Okay, next we have James Burk up talking about Marspedia, building an online encyclopedia for education and public outreach.
Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. I'm going to talk today about the Marspedia project that we, the Mars Society, have joined in the last year. The project's been going on for longer than that, but we've joined it and we're hoping to really help out as much as we can and make something great. So today I'm going to talk about Marspedia and Frank Crossman, who's here in the room. Frank is going to come up and help me out a little bit here. Two other people that are on the title slide here. Bruce McKenzie is the principal at the Mars Foundation. He actually owns the domain name for Marspedia. And Nicole Willette is also here at the conference. She's our education director for the Mars Society, and she also helps out with Marspedia. So those are the four names on the title slide there. The goal for Marspedia is to create an online encyclopedia that is free and available for everyone worldwide. Currently it is in English, but we have plans long-term to translate parts of it or all of it to other languages. It's designed to be a public domain content encyclopedia so that the content can be freely used. And it's also a way for us to have a volunteer project that is one that's appealing for people to help out with. And what we'd like to do is help promote the idea of humans to Mars and the exploration and eventual settlement of Mars. And that's the work that we've done the last year to try to help that along, to try to refocus the encyclopedia on the future and not the past. It's also a great knowledge repository that could be used for various projects. A lot of projects need a wiki to store information in, and this can be a permanent receptacle for any project to store information in, because anyone can come and create an account here for free and use the wiki. And so we think it's also, as I mentioned, a good volunteer project, but a good project for Mars Society chapters as well. So the recent history, in the last year we joined the project, but the wiki has been around for about 11 years. As I mentioned, the domain name is owned by Mars Foundation, and Mars Foundation worked with another group called the Moon Society back in 2007 to set up Marspedia as well as Lunarpedia and some other wikis at the same time. And over the years, we were getting emails from people that said, hey, I would like to help out with Marspedia. And they came to the Mars Society just thinking that, we were involved, and we weren't. So we would have to, turn them away. And so about a year ago, usually since I'm the guy that's running our websites at the Mars Society, these emails would get routed to me. So about a year ago, I went and called up the website. I'd been familiar with it because I'd been helping those two organizations in the past, and called it up, and it was kind of stale. They had a bunch of spam on the wiki. They had they had new users turned off to combat the spam, and nobody had really been doing anything for it for a while. It was clear. So I emailed the people that are involved with those other two organizations, and I said, hey, could the Mars Society help you guys out with this? And they said, yes, great, let's do it. So I worked with Bruce and another gentleman, James Golston, with the Moon Society to write some bylaws so that the three organizations could formally and officially work together on the wiki. And we created a governing council with those bylaws and appointed people from all three organizations. And at that time, we also dusted off the code for the wiki and moved it onto a high-performance web server that the Mars Foundation owns and maintains. And then finally, we started putting some effort into rebranding it and creating a new logo, which you can see there. And so it was a long set of discussions to get to the point where we are today, but now we have an active team working on this project and taking it forward. So here's the members of the governing council. So myself and Nicole lead the council, and there's several other people that are helping out. We also have, you'll see at the bottom of this slide, there are some people that are on the council by virtue of their positions with the organizations. Normally that's called, in Robert's Rules of Order, that's called an ex officio member. So we actually have 3 people that are either ex officio or on the council because of their position in another organization. So Bruce is on it because, number one, he owns the domain name, but also because he runs the Mars Foundation. And then Carrie Fay with the Mars Society is on it as well. She's our sort of official representative. And then James Golston is also on it from the Moon Society. We don't normally have affiliations. We're all kind of individuals helping this project out. But those are the 3 positions that are sort of official representative positions. Once we formed the governing council in October of last year, we quickly formed 2 committees. We actually call them subcommittees because the entire Marspedia is a committee of the Mars Society now, legally. So we're operating under the Mars Society's 501c3. And so we created 2 subcommittees, editorial and technical. The editorial subcommittee meets every week on a conference call, and we've been steadily improving the content of the wiki and ensuring quality. The biggest project we've accomplished has been to create a new set of categories, which I'll talk about in a moment with Frank's help. And then we also have been building out a list of needed articles. Now that we have a nice organization of categories to cover all the topics we want to have on Marspedia, we're going to build out a list of needed articles. And as we bring more volunteers on, we're going to assign them articles to write or to research. On the technical side, a lot of work has been done in the last year. And we meet on a discussion channel using a tool called Slack that's very popular in the tech industry. And so we're basically always meeting because we're always on Slack. We always have it running on our computers. And we've been modernizing the wiki. We've upgraded the software that the wiki runs on, which is called MediaWiki, which is software that Wikipedia also uses. And it's probably, I've looked at all the different options for wiki software out there, and I think MediaWiki is by far the best option for us. So we've upgraded it to the latest version. We've also installed a bunch of popular extensions, including one that allows you to edit the wiki in a rich text editor, sort of like Microsoft Word. Instead of having to learn the codes that you would normally have to learn to edit a wiki, you don't have to do that with Marspedia if you use the visual editor. We also did a bunch of work to clean up the spam content and users. There's actually several tens of thousands of spam users in the wiki that we were able to clean up. And then we've been currently doing some custom development to create a category selector based off of all the categories we have now, so that you can easily choose one and see the hierarchy of the categories, which again I'll talk about in a moment. So we're doing some custom work on that visual editor to enable that. And what we'd like to do, and we like to do this with a lot of our projects at the Mars Society, we want to feed those changes back into the community. And so we're going to provide those open source to the visual editor extension team so that if they want to use that category selector in their software for everyone else, that they have that option. We're going to be working on a set of stub pages based off of the list that the editorial team creates of all the needed articles. And then our big project for the next couple years will be to create a Mars Atlas. So there are several options out there to look at Mars, to look at the terrain of Mars and some of the photos that have been taken by the different missions that have gone to Mars. Probably the most popular Mars Atlas out there is Google Mars. A lot of people are familiar with that. What we would like to do is not just build a version of Google Mars that the Mars Society owns. We would like to have it be a little bit deeper than that, in the sense of being able to zoom all the way down to the surface and have that be accurate. And then also be able to have an article page for every named feature on Mars. And there are thousands of named features. So this is a project we're going to spend some time on the next couple years to create a Mars Atlas that can be used as a reference for everyone, and it'll be free and open source and public domain. What I'd also like to do is, and I'll be talking about the Mars VR project also at this conference. For phase 2 of that project, we're going to build a 3D globe of Mars based off of real NASA data, and we can tie those two things together once we have the Marspedia article pages created. So next is our category hierarchy. So I'd like to invite Frank up to talk a little bit about this.
So I thought I'd give you a little bit of history as to why we went into this creation of a new set of categories. Back about a year ago at the Irvine meeting, James and Josh and I got together one afternoon, and we were talking about the idea of having a set of categories that we could apply against all those Mars references that are out there. Not only the Mars papers that we have within the Society, or the YouTube channel that covers a lot of the sessions that we have here, but also exterior sites that have information that's of value. But then the question became, well, how do we know, how do we get to those things that have the most value? If we apply a Google search against everything that's out there, you know what happens. There's a gem on page 10 or 12, and it takes a lot more refinement of your search to find what you're looking for. So we were looking for something that was more impressive than the 20 keywords that I applied in Mars papers back in 2003 when we started that, and yet provided some structure to the information so that you could find all related information. And up here you see that the categories include, the obvious Mars planetary science, which would include the atlas we were talking about. It includes the history of spacecraft and robotic missions, and also those things that are planned. But it also includes a lot of the future. Mars human exploration, Mars human settlement, Mars outreach associated with that, and finally a section that is more, at this point, history, all of the Mars arts and literature information. So there's a lot of focus here on the future. And what I wanted to say was that we're not apologizing for the fact that a lot of our categories apply to that future, because that future is what energizes the volunteers for the Mars Society and Marspedia. So that's where we're heading. Turn it back to you.
Cool. Thank you, Frank. So we actually have several hundred categories in this list. We're just showing the top 6 high-level, top-level categories, but there's a whole hierarchy. So for example, for Mars spacecraft, you'll see all the missions, and those are divided up. There's also mission planning, different mission plans that have happened over the years. And so this is sort of a structure that we can start hanging content on. Some of the things I would like to do in the near future is create an article page for every Mars mission that's happened in the past, for every mission plan that's been created in the past. Obviously we have a Mars Direct page, but we could definitely add more of the Wernher von Braun plans and some of the other things that have happened in the last 50 to 70 years to talk about going to Mars. So it could be an archive of all the different Mars mission plans that have ever been done. For the Mars outreach category, this is where we can put all of our conference archives. So we can have landing pages for each of the Mars Society conferences and link those to all the YouTube videos that we have and other materials that we have on Mars papers. So it's a great way to kind of tie together some of the information that's already out there now, but that it's hard to find for people. So here's kind of a screenshot of what the Mars globe would look like. This is what I mentioned before. This is our long-term goal of building a aerology section for the wiki so that every named feature can be viewed. And you would start out, you would see kind of the bigger ones, but as you zoom down with your mouse wheel or with your VR headset, you'd be able to go deeper and start seeing other named features that are smaller, and then go all the way down to the surface. This is possible because there is data that covers the entire planet for both altimeter data with the MOLA mission data set that's from the Mars Global Surveyor in the 1990s. And then there's also, a lot of coverage of the planet from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. There's going to be places that have better detail than others, but we can basically do work to tie it all together. So, like I said, this is a volunteer project. None of us are being paid to work on this. We're all donating our time. And we definitely need help to pull off this vision. You can sign up for an account. They're free. You just have to fill out a short form to request an account, but we approve all the requests. We just want to make sure that they're not spam users. You can join our 2 subcommittees. You can either help edit and write content for the wiki, or you can help with the technical aspects. This is also a great place if you don't currently have technical skills but want to pick some up. We're willing to help teach you and help you learn that. Myself, I had never used MediaWiki very much before from a technical perspective, and I've learned a lot in the last year about it. Tell people about this project, including children and educator friends, because this is going to be a great resource. We actually already have a teacher page on the wiki. It's on the main page. And then help us come up with new ideas for articles. We'll have a needed articles page, but anyone can edit that, and you can add the ideas you have for articles, and eventually we'll work on whatever those are. And then another thing you can do is if you already have content you've written that might be helpful for us, and you're willing to donate it to us, you can do that. We have a process for you to submit content. You don't have to give up your rights to the content. You don't have to make your content public domain. We can tag it with a license that gives you attribution, for example. And we've done that recently with Nicole's content. She wrote some articles that were going to go into a real encyclopedia, but that project was canceled. And so she gave us all of those articles, but she didn't want to have them be public domain because she had spent hundreds of hours writing them. So we tagged them with a Creative Commons license that requires attribution. So anyone can use her content, but it has to include her name as the author. So that's my presentation. Any questions? Yes?
How much material do you currently have to download?
We have a couple hundred articles now, but we definitely need to grow that. We want to have thousands. And the first step of growing it was to build the categories and come up with a set that we were going to use long term. So now that's done, and we'll be building out the needed articles. One of the things I would like to do in the next year is, actually there's a couple of things I'd like to do around that. I would like to get interns from journalism schools interested in this, like folks that are going to go into science journalism. This would be a great project for them to start learning how to be a science journalist. So I'm going to talk to all of the major journalism schools in the U.S. about this project and try to get some interns and people that are willing to help out. And then the other thing we might do is a contest. So maybe we'll pick a couple of articles we really want to have done well, and we'll do a contest and give them some type of Mars Society related swag or something as a prize, so we get some article submissions for the stuff we want to have written soon. So, any other questions? Yes.
So you don't need an account to view the articles. You just
That's
need
correct.
to contribute.
That's correct. There are some benefits to having an account, even if you're not going to write articles or edit articles. You can tag articles that you want to get notified about if they have updates to them, if there's something you're interested in. And a year from now, somebody updates that article, you'll get a notification via email. And then you can also save stuff as favorites and things like that. So there's some features there that kind of are nice, even if you're a consumer of this. So.
Has this gone out to sort of just all the Mars Society members know about, like, give access
We
to them to just let them know that
We did a bulletin last October when we formed the council and we joined the project, but we've been waiting to get the categories done to really do a big push. But this talk is part of the start of that. So, yes.
Just mechanically, you're categorizing articles, and you have to read and check each of these articles. And you're a volunteer. Is that how that works?
So essentially, if somebody creates an article or updates an article, the update goes out. It's live. And so what we will do is we'll have people on call to check any new submissions that have come in or edits that have come in to make sure that they align with what we want. So it's essentially, we filter, but we do it after the fact. Like, we're not going to, if someone contributes something, we're not going to stop it from going out, but we will look at it and review it and make changes if we need to. And that's actually how Wikipedia works too.
The audience then says, wait a minute, that's...
Right. So we're trying to build a framework so that someday, if there's thousands of people doing this, they all can work together effectively.
There have been contributions to Marspedia in the past that when you read the article, you say, this is something to do with Mars.
Yeah.
And there's a real question about whether they should be in Marspedia at all.
Right.
So the editors are basically looking at that as well, but they're going to be applying categories to the work. Categories are just a matter of picking the subject title.
It's a couple clicks. It's not a lot of work. It's longer to think about what you want to do than actually do it. Any other questions? David?
So are you going to fold Mars News into this as a resource or as an updated resource?
So marsnews.com is a site I started in 1999. It's still up. It's basically a news index. So when there's news on other sites about Mars, we put it on marsnews.com. It is a Mars Society project now. And we do have Mars News actually on the main page of Marspedia. Yeah, if you look at the bottom of this homepage, there's a news feed down there that's from marsnews.com. When I start talking to the journalism schools, I'm going to probably also mention Mars News as another project people could help out with, but it's now a Mars Society volunteer project.
Are you going to pursue rights to other space, like Spacecraft and Space.com, to reference their stuff?
Are we going to
Pursue rights to quote them?
for
Or at
like,
least link to their website for that information?
you mean if,
They don't always keep their stuff resident for a long period of time.
so are you asking, are we going to help archive content on other sites? Or are we going to reference other?
Content, yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. If those other sites like SpaceRef, for example, I don't know how willing they would be, but some of those sites, if they're, I know that over the years, a lot of great resources about space have been up and then go away. Like I could think of, there's one David S.F. Portees Moon and Mars Planning Archive, like that's gone. And I've tried to reach out to that person and say, hey, can I help you host your content? Because your content was great. So I definitely want to help people preserve content long term. In terms of linking to specific stuff, yes, if it's like a reference, I think that'd be fine. But bear in mind, most of the content on Marspedia is public domain. So they would have to be willing to give the content to us and not have any restrictions on it that we wouldn't be able to deal with. We could certainly do the attribution, Creative Commons attribution, but if they wanted to maintain copyright on it or like sell ads on it, then we wouldn't be willing to take that on.
So like Alan Boyle with Geekwire now, formerly with MSNBC, formerly with CBS.
Yes.
A lot of that earlier stuff, unless he kept archives of his space reporting, they're gone.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, same with Jeff Powell.
If Alan Boyle or Jeff Faust want us to archive their stuff, I'd be more than willing to work with them on that. You know, so yeah. Alan Boyle's Cosmic Log I was a huge fan of in the 90s, for example. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
You're talking about going back into the files, right? How far back? Because you said it was in the future at some point.
Mm-hmm.
When do you stop going back?
Well, it depends on the topic. I mean, I mentioned creating an archive of all the Mars mission plans. We can go back to the 40s for that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we want to be more forward-looking about plans for the future than building this huge archive of old stuff. It's more the project is more about the future and Mars settlement and plans for the future. So, but anyone is willing to go back and do their own work and save it into Marspedia. We're not going to stop them. So, okay. Any other questions? I'm 1 minute over. So, thank you guys. Thanks a lot.